In May 2026, a CEO worth billions of dollars stood in front of 10,000 graduates at the University of Arizona and was almost booed off the stage. His name is Eric Schmidt, the former boss of Google, and as the jeers rolled in, he stopped and said, quote, "I can hear you. There is a fear in your generation." Now, student groups had organised protests ahead of the ceremony over sexual assault allegations against Schmidt, but anxiety over AI was also clearly a factor, with the jeers intensifying each time Schmidt praised AI's potential. The economic anxiety that graduates feel about their degrees is palpable and worth examining, but it was one thread in a far more complicated story that day. Meanwhile, elite universities are raising their prices while everyone below them is holding a fire sale. And that divergence is a warning sign that the credentials many young people are plunging themselves into debt to achieve are rapidly losing value. So today, we break down why the top schools are getting more expensive while the rest slash prices by 40%, the federal ruling that changed everything, and why your degree might have just turned from an asset into a liability. My name is Guy, and this is the Finance Bureau. Now, for decades, the deal was simple enough. You take on debt to go to university, you get the degree gets you a good job, and the job pays a wage premium big enough to make the whole thing worth it. Even today, a worker with a bachelor's degree earns around $1,543 a week versus $930 for someone with just a high school diploma. That's roughly a 66% premium, and on paper, it sounds like a no-brainer. But that premium stopped growing in the early 2000s. And while it flatlined, the supply of graduates absolutely exploded. The share of the labour force holding a degree went from 31% in the year 2000 to 45% by January 2025. In other words, the market got flooded with the exact credentials everyone was told were their golden tickets. And as basic economics will tell you, when supply doubles while the payoff stays flat, the value of the thing falls. So, colleges had a problem brewing for years, but they also had an unlimited supply of federal money to help mask the issue. Which brings us to the mechanism that kept the whole show on the road. You see, for years, graduate students could borrow through a program called Grad Plus, which is basically a federal loan with no real ceiling. You could borrow up to the full cost of attendance, however high the school set it. But of course, when you hand institutions a customer with unlimited borrowing power, well, they naturally raise prices. The American Enterprise Institute's Beth Akers put it plainly that this unlimited credit access historically incentivized the inflation of tuition costs for decades. So, tuition climbed faster than inflation year after year because the federal backstop made the sticker price almost irrelevant to the person signing the paperwork. So that was the machine, and it's just been switched off. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, signed back in July 2025, did something the higher education industry never saw coming. It killed Grad Plus entirely, and in its place it set a hard cap. For general graduate programs, which includes the MBA, you can now borrow a maximum of $20,500 a year and just $100,000 over your entire lifetime. The Department of Education said the quiet part out loud, stating the change was designed to, quote, curb excessive borrowing and force institutions to evaluate their costs. In other words, this was deliberate, a market clearing mechanism landing right in the middle of a bubble that federal credit had kept inflated for 20 years. And the moment the hard cap kicked in a year after the Big Beautiful Bill was signed, the divergence began. Because now we get to see which schools actually have pricing power and which ones were only surviving on cheap government money. So, starting from the top, Harvard Law School tuition for 2026 to 2027 is now $84,400. Wharton's MBA tuition is even higher at $87,970, pushing the total cost of attendance to approximately $132,000 a year when fees and living expenses are included. These schools are raising prices in defiance of a loan cap that should instead be forcing them down. But they're doing so because, well, they can. Because for the elite tier, the brand is very much the product. At that level, you're paying for the prestige, the name on the resume, and the alumni network that can open the right doors further down the line. But while the top schools look astronomically expensive, for most admitted students, they're actually not. Harvard offers full tuition scholarships to families earning up to $200,000 a year, and families earning $100,000 or less pay essentially nothing. Harvard covers the entire cost of attendance, not just tuition. So the sticker price is essentially meaningless, as the demand for places is so high that the price barely matters. That's the top of the market, and from up there, it's all good. But for everyone else, it's starting to get decidedly dog-eat-dog. For instance, Purdue University just cut its online MBA by roughly 40%, dropping it from $60,000 down to $36,000. UC Irvine slashed its MBA programs by up to 38%, with savings of up to $48,000 per student, and tellingly priced its program at roughly $99,000, i.e. just under that $100,000 federal cap. Irvine's dean, Ian Williamson, admitted it openly, saying this specific combination of pricing and loan cap alignment simply didn't exist in the market before, and they reverse-engineered their price tag from the government's borrowing ceiling. Meanwhile, Johns Hopkins is offering 50% scholarships just to keep its cohorts full. And this isn't a handful of outliers, as the average tuition discount rate at private colleges just hit 57.1%. To put that percentage in perspective, these schools are now collecting roughly 44 cents on every dollar of their sticker price, essentially an entire industry admitting its product isn't worth what it's charging. And if you want to make sense of the stories that affect your paycheck, portfolio, and pension, then you should sign up for the Finance Bureau newsletter. It's absolutely free, and we break down everything regarding global finance, commodity markets, macroeconomic trends, and monetary policy so that you never miss what truly matters. All you have to do is click the link in the description or scan the QR code on your screen to get started. Now, interestingly, when, for instance, a bond's price suddenly collapses, it's a signal that the market is concerned that the bond issuer won't be able to pay the holders of its bonds back when they're required to. As such, the market reprices that bond lower and factors that risk into the new price. Well, a similar thing is happening with tuition, because the only reason a school would slash 40% off its flagship program is that demand has cratered and the old price can no longer be justified. And the demand has indeed cratered. Traditional 2-year MBA applications are down 20 to 30% this cycle. Experts attribute this to something they call job hugging, where professionals cling to their current roles out of anxiety around AI rather than gamble on taking another degree to try and level up. As such, the whole system gets gummed up, with more experienced workers staying put, leaving fewer openings for recent graduates to step into. And the resulting damage is happening further down the food chain, where the schools don't have a brand to fall back on. Syracuse University just eliminated 93 programs, around 20% of everything it offered. Kentucky State is tightening its admission standards and bracing for a 20% enrollment drop by spring 2027. The middle of the market is collapsing inward, and the institutions are admitting it before the students do. And the timing is devastating, because this discounting is colliding with the exact thing those graduates were booing about. The jobs at the end of the tunnel are disappearing. For what's effectively the first time on record, recent college graduates now face higher unemployment than the general workforce. Recent grad unemployment sits at 5.6%, while the national rate is just 4.2%. So the thing that was supposed to protect you is now the riskier bet. And it gets worse because even the grads who find work often aren't using their degree at all. An alarming 41.5% of recent graduates are underemployed, working jobs that never required a degree in the first place. Now, when a graduate lands a job that actually matches their degree, they do earn that big wage premium, around 88% over a high school grad. But when they end up underemployed, that premium collapses to just 25%. That's the difference between a degree being a sound investment and a degree being little more than financial dead weight. And the students see it coming. According to Monster's 2026 survey, 89% of graduates now fear that AI will replace entry-level roles. That's up from just 64% a year earlier. Now, the obvious assumption is that AI is the villain here, single-handedly torching the bottom rung of the career ladder. But before you go and burn down your local data center, consider this. New research from the New York Fed, published in June 2026, found that remote work, not AI, accounts for an estimated 64% of the rise in youth unemployment. And the logic is pretty simple. Employers won't onboard inexperienced workers they can't mentor in person, because you can't transfer skills by osmosis over a Zoom call. So the entry-level rung of the ladder was already looking weak before AI showed up. AI has only really arrived to finish the job. A Harvard working paper found that at companies adopting AI tools, junior hiring fell nearly 8% within 6 quarters. In tech, 65% of hiring managers now say they'd rather invest in AI than hire and train a recent graduate. PwC's chief AI officer described it perfectly, saying entry-level roles are being, quote, seniorized, redesigned to demand skills that used to appear much later in a career. So picture the trap the average graduate is now caught in. The bottom rung of the ladder, the entry-level job that justified the whole deal of going massively into debt in order to get a degree, is exactly what's being automated and offshored from underneath them. Remove that rung and the debt-to-income trajectory never closes. The maths that made college worth it simply stops adding up. Now that said, there are still ways to avoid this trap, or at least the worst of it. If you're heading into engineering, computer science, nursing, economics, or a professional path like medicine or law, the degree possibly still pays. Nursing especially, because it's what economists call non-remotable. It can't be offshored, it can't be done over Zoom, and it can't be fully automated. That's what the finance bros call a moat. But if you're financing a generic business degree, a non-specialized master's, or a humanities path at private university debt levels, understand what the research is telling you. Between 23 and 28% of bachelor's programs already deliver a negative lifetime return. And roughly half of all master's programs show no meaningful financial payoff at all. So, if you're taking on debt for a degree, that debt now has a hard ceiling of $100,000 in federal loans, and anything above that means private loans at rates that can hit 18%. If your program costs more than the cap and your field doesn't guarantee the premium, you're not investing, you're speculating with borrowed money on a wage premium that's evaporating. The data is also brutally clear on one more thing. The major matters more than the institution. Paying a prestige premium for a low ROI degree is now, to put it bluntly, a losing trade. But consider that pre-graduation work experience cuts your risk of underemployment by more than 49% because it buys you the in-person mentorship that remote work is killing everywhere else. So perhaps the best way to get a head start is to get an internship and clock up some actual experience because, as with every paradigm shift, there are winners and losers. The winners in this case, apart from those elite schools charging ungodly amounts of money, are those who are going into jobs that can't easily be done remotely or by a machine, while the losers are those who can't adapt quickly enough to this brave, new, scary world we're living in. So the game is changing. Make sure you know what the new rules are so you're not left watching from the sidelines. But what do you think? Is your degree still an asset that'll pay off in the end, or has it become a liability the market has already marked down? And would you tell an 18-year-old today take on the debt or walk away and learn a trade? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to understand the deeper mechanics of how cheap credit inflates an entire asset class before it breaks, then you can check out our breakdown on that right over here. That's all from me for today though, so as always, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. This is Guy, signing off.